This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman, and today we are going to get into another hunting story. And this is Adventures with Firestorm. Firestorm is a muzzle-loading rifle once made by Thompson Arms Company. And it was specifically designed for the Pennsylvania muzzle-loading season, which takes place in January, and you may hunt only with flintlock guns. So that makes it interesting. You're using a flintlock gun in some of the worst weather that the state will experience, and you're trying to shoot a deer with it. Thompson Arms, located in nearby New Hampshire, of course knew of this. And they decided to bring out a Pacific gun for this hunt and for any other users of flintlock guns who wanted to try something new. And in designing this gun, they wanted to do something unique. They wanted to make a gun that would use the then new Pyrex pellets and get it to fire with a flintlock. Yeah. So taking on these twin challenges, they designed a gun specifically for this hunt. One improvement was it was going to have a synthetic stock, because they could expect that, that the gun might well be exposed to snow and whatever, and the stock dimensions might change. So using a synthetic stock solved this problem. They also needed to make it a flintlock ignition. That means typically that you prime it with 4F black powder, and you had to make sure that the explosion of the priming powder actually ignited the rear of the Pyrex pellets, so that the explosion covered the whole back of the pellet, not just an ignition right in one spot, but covered the whole back. So they designed a specific touch hole to do this, and a specific ignition system utilizing a subchamber. And this gun had a removable breech plug. So with a special tool, you could very easily take it out and remove it and clean it just straight down the barrel like you would any other gun. They also put a stainless steel barrel on it to prevent corrosion. All these sounded pretty good. They put a matte finish on the stainless instead of making it bright. And they designed a new lock for it. Now, this new lock used the same coil spring mechanism which they had successfully used before on all of their other guns, including the Hawken rifle that they started out with, the woodstock and brass fixtured gun that many people were familiar with by that time. So the basic lock design was the same. And at the same time, more or less, they brought out a new version of their Contender pistol. Now, I was an early buyer of Contender firearms, and I really like single-shot pistols. And as soon as I could get one in Alaska, I bought it, and this was number 1618. And I used this gun for some time. And we took a variety of game with it in Alaska and elsewhere. No big game, unfortunately. But we used it. And ultimately, once I had returned home to Georgia, the pistol failed, and I sent it back to Thompson Center. And they informed me that, the gun was not really repairable, but they would replace it. And so they did. And so I used that gun for a while in .44 Magnum, and which had a hot shot barrel extension, which also allowed it to use a shot shell in .44 Magnum. Another story. But in the meantime, they were bringing out a new pistol altogether with a much more robust frame, taking cartridges up to 30-06. Wow. Now, this was something new. And so I requested one of these, and these were sent. So I had two guns to work with at home. Now, the Encore, meaning the pistol now, shot very well. And I used it successfully on hunts here in Georgia. And the Firestorm, however, gave problems with ignition. They supplied it with a cut agate flint. And I was having ignition problems with it. And I did various things to try to solve that, one of which was to strengthen the mainspring by putting a washer on its running rod. And that helped a little bit. But this gun would only fire for me reliably if it was super sharp. If the flint was freshly napped, and I used 4F powder, and I was particularly sure to push 4F powder down in through the touch hole into that little subchamber. Then it would fire. Clean shot, clean gun, first shot, yeah, it would go. Second shot, maybe. And then I would have to re-nap and so on and continue. So I did various experimentations, including making a priming pellet of all black powder, some 20 to 50 grains, and seeding that in the back of the two Pyrex pellets I was using. I was also using a 370 grain maxi ball. And this made a pretty potent load. But it was not avowed by Thompson Center because this was not their product, and they would not guarantee a gun, using such a expedient solution. But I was invited by Greg Ritz, then associated with Thompson Center, and to go on a hunt at the Nail Ranch in Texas and bring these guns. And so I did. And the Nail Ranch is in sort of central Texas in the hill country. It is also an oil-producing area. And so there are oil wells on the Nail Ranch. And trucks would run and visit the wells periodically and pick up the oil and drag it back. Now, the surface of the ground is a Manco shale. The Manco shale is a Cretaceous shale, and it is slick and sticky as snot. Even more so. If you get a half inch of rain on this stuff, you can't move. I don't care what you're driving. So, these were the conditions of the hunt. We were invited and we were fed out of the back of a chuck wagon and fed very well. And we were given a place to sleep and a place to work. And here in this picture that you'll see, I'm actually in the process of cleaning my gun. And you can see the interior and the panel walls and me with black hair and more of it than I've got right now. And so we had the hunt and went out with both guns. Now, one of the regimes that you go through on any of these hunts is that you do a sighting in. You have to prove to the host that, yeah, in fact, you can shoot that gun. And so we went out to the range, and they put up a target at 50 yards, I think. And this was one of these targets for scopes with all kinds of cross hatches and whatever on it. And I had iron sights. So this was very difficult for me to do anything with. So I said, well, just put me up something else, something square that I can see, and I'll shoot for the center of the target. Okay? So they put me up a target at 50 yards. All right. And I had the gun, and it was fresh, and it was clean. And I primed it very carefully and pushed powder through the touch hole again, as I would usually do. Loaded two pellets and the maxi ball. Cocked it. Aimed carefully at the center of the target. Pull the trigger, and whoosh, boom, bang, thump. The bullet hit almost dead center. Beautiful shot. So, they wanted me to do it again. Well, knowing the reputation of that gun, I wasn't going to risk it. I fired one good shot, and that was enough for me. So I said, no, that's it. That's it with this gun. I need to clean it. And here you see me actually cleaning the gun after that first initial shot and getting it ready for the next day. Well, one of the reasons you see so few pictures here, this was the day of 35 millimeter slides, and I was shooting this old Exacta camera that you see. I had a series of lenses for it, and a beautiful old camera, worked well. And you could do all kinds of interesting things with it. And I had both telephoto and standard lenses and close-up lenses and the whole raft of accessories for the Exacta, which I've since sold, by the way. So this was a camera we were using. On our healthy eating and yogurt front, we have now made our third batch of yogurt. And in this, we used a couple of tablespoons of yogurt from the previous batch to make this one, instead of putting in the yogurt-causing bacteria, the rudii, from capsules. And this is a savory pie. The crust is made from nut flours, mostly almond, with some coconut flour in it, and pre-baked, and then the filling put in it. So, we're going to have us a good meal here. Using AI to make your own job anytime, anywhere, at any age will shortly be released. It'll be available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and other sources worldwide. Please purchase this book and give me a review. These early reviews are very significant to writers, and so something we really need. And so we went out on our hunt with the Firestorm. Well, in this style of hunting, there are sort of two ways to do it. One, you set up over water holes, just like you would in Africa. And so one of the first hunts we did was me and a gentleman named Cole who went with me. We sat up on a water hole. And I was on a bluff overlooking it, sort of. And so we had a steep downhill shot. And we had a deer come in. And so I actually shot over the back of it. I didn't touch the deer. But the gun had been fired. So knowing that we had more hunting to do, we reloaded it and touched up the agate flint, as I knew I had to do to get it to shoot again. So we proceeded with our hunt. And I don't think that the rest of the day we really didn't see anything I could shoot. There was a coyote out there at about 200 yards, but this gun, no, I had no idea where it would shoot at 200 yards, so I didn't even try for it. So we went back and unloaded the gun, cleaned it, and reloaded it. The next morning when we went out in a fog. And in the fog, we spotted a deer. Both Cole and I saw the deer, but it was not that terrible visible. And so I tried for it, hit it, but we never, ever recovered that deer. The bullet undoubtedly passed through it, but on that rocky ground, track as we tried to do, we never did recover that deer. And I was disappointed about that. If I'd had one of my dogs, I would have put my dog on it. But they did not have such a thing. So that was a deer shot and a deer lost. Well, woof. Well, that was enough for me for the Firestorm at that stage. So then we got out the Encore pistol, and we proceeded to take a very large hog with it. The biggest hog shot that day. It weighed over 350 pounds, too big for the scales to weigh. And we got it, sat up on it, saw it. We were hunting from a Jeep at that time, and it was busy fiddling around with a sow. So it was distracted. We got a good broadside shot. I fired. Cole said he thought I had missed, and I don't think so. That was a pretty close shot at 30 yards. I'm pretty sure I got it. And we walked over the top of the hill, and there it was. It was very dead by that time. And a storm was coming in. Oh, Lord, we better get out of here. Fortunately, another truck was nearby. So it took 4 people to load that hog on board that truck. And here you see the picture of me and Ken French with the hog hanging up prior to being skinned. And so I took that trophy home. So we had a big hog with the Encore pistol, but Firestorm had yet to score. Well, perhaps learning of this, I was invited by Brad Harris to go on a hunt in Kansas. Well, they had big deer in Kansas. They do, and plenty of them. So I thought this would be a fine time to take the Firestorm out again. So this time we did, and we went up to Kansas with the Firestorm. Well, we set up and once more fired the test shot. This time it was at 100 yards. And I told him to, put me up a pie plate out there. And once again, with a perfectly retouched flint, priming powder, pushed down through the touch hole again, and bang, bonk. The bullet hit within 2 inches of the center of the pie plate. Wow. Perfectly presented, perfectly preserved, the gun shot fine. So we proceeded to go on our hunt. I was put up in an elevated stand, and we were overlooking a cornfield and hoping that a good deer would come by. Well, a good deer did come by, something over 200 yards. No, I couldn't do it with that gun. So we tried again and went out several more times, but never ever could get a shot with that gun. We had a huge raccoon come in, but didn't want to take the raccoon. Or they didn't want me to take the raccoon. I would have, but they didn't. So, again, another hunt, another unsuccessful hunt with the Firestorm. Well, that was 2 good hunts, meaning 2 good hunt locations. And the Firestorm had yet to score. And in my hands, it never, ever did. We never managed to do sufficiently good shooting with that Firestorm to make it worthwhile for me to keep. I certainly didn't want to own it. So I packaged it up and sent it back. Now, since then, other gun writers have had much better luck with it. One in particular came and he recognized that it did not spark very well with these cut agate flints. So he put in a good English flint. And he used only black powder, loose black powder. That fired reliably for him, that fired accurately, and that shot well. But with the pellets and the way I was trying to do it, with that cut agate flint, no, it never was successful. Keeping in the theme of the Pennsylvania flintlock hunt, the next story will be about the RMC AccuSporter, a gun designed for Pennsylvanians by Pennsylvanians for use in this midwinter hunt. For now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe. Goodbye, God bless, and see you next time.